Hello everyone, I'm Barofi1322 and welcome to a special edition video showing an updated list of the overall top 25 fastest cars in GTA Online around a circuit. This video is a celebration of pretty much an entire year of testing cars for this series and is the 50th episode of the Best Fully Upgraded Cars series. If a car isn't in this list then it was too slow, so be sure to check out the annotation on the screen or the link in the description for the full playlist of videos showing every class in the game, and of course feel free to subscribe for future updates. So first up we have the Sultan just scraping in 25th spot. It would actually be just ahead of the Kuruma as well, which is in 26th. The Sultan is our quickest 4-door car as well, so it's the only 4-door car to make it into this list. In 24th place is the Coquette. The Coquette is not too bad at all, it puts in a respectable lap time, about 0.2 of a second quicker than the Sultan, but it's not really got the power for the top vehicles. Now in 23rd place is our only vehicle that isn't a sports car or a supercar, and that's the Sterling GT. The best sports classic car in the game is far and away quicker than every other sports classic. It's ridiculous how dominant this is, and you do need that spare tyre on the back because it does act like a spoiler on all of the cars, increasing traction. So in 22nd is our first supercar, and that is the Voltic. With a 106.6, when it is fully upgraded, it does just become pretty much a bog standard sports car in terms of lap time. But in 21st place, just ahead of it, is the Alfa. I think the Alfa is a little bit underrated and not really thought of much, but it is a reasonably quick car. Obviously, as we've seen, quicker than the Voltic by a small amount, a 106.4, and all of the cars in this area are very close together on pace. So in 20th place here is the Carbonizer. The Carbonizer is reasonably quick in a straight line, but it does lack a little bit of traction around the corners even with a spoiler. 106.3, only 1/10 of a second quicker than the Alfa, and then again 1/10 of a second quicker than that is the Banshee. Now the Banshee is in 19th place, our 10th best sports car in the game, a 106.2. Again, not too bad at all, it does lack a little bit of traction, but it's very good in just general balance as well. So in 18th place is the Adder. Now the Adder is obviously amazingly quick in a straight line, not necessarily the quickest in the game, but it's certainly the quickest supercar, as long as you've got enough road. But around the corners, because it doesn't have a spoiler, it doesn't get that extra traction, it's not very quick in a racing situation. So in 17th place is the Comet, our 9th best sports car in the game, 105.840, whereas the Adder had a 105.845, so pretty much identical lap times between the Comet and the Adder there, showing just how good the Comet is. And just ahead of that in 16th is the Serrano. So we've got a few sports cars coming back into the mix again. A 105.4, it's a few tenths of a second quicker than the Comet. Again, not too bad, quite powerful as well. And then just ahead of that in 15th is the 9F. So the 9F is our 7th best sports car in the game, and it's very good in rainy situations as well when the track is wet. 4-wheel drive, but it can be quite difficult to get used to. A 105.2, but it can get a very good lap time once you master it. So in 14th place is the Vaca. Now this is our 8th best supercar in the game, so we are getting closer to the sharp end of things now. A 105.1, just slightly ahead of the 9F, a reasonably well balanced rear wheel drive car is the Vaca, and then just ahead is the Jester in 13th. So the Jester isn't that great in terms of acceleration, it's got reasonably good balance and good traction. A 104.7 is a very good lap time, it just lacks a little bit of what the top sports cars have. So in 12th place is the Cheetah. Now the Cheetah is very, very quick, it just lacks a little bit of power for what the top supercars do. But what we're going to see at the minute is quite a lot of cars that are all very, very similar in performance. So the Cheetah managed a lap time of 1 minute 4.139, and the Feltzer in 11th place manages a lap time of 1 minute 4.137. So 0.02 of a second quicker. They're pretty much as near as makes no difference identical. And then just ahead of that in 10th place is the Massacro, which gets a 1 minute 4.102. So again, pretty much identical on this track, and it is going to depend on the track as to which is better out of these vehicles that you see. For example, the Massacro is very good in a straight line, but it kind of lacks the traction needed to really push those top lap times on tracks that require a lot of traction. In that case, the Feltzer will certainly be up there. The Feltzer has a hell of a lot of traction, so if you use it correctly, you can get a very quick lap time, but it is going to be very much track dependent, because even for the Massacro race car, which just has a tiny little bit more traction than the regular Massacro, but otherwise is exactly the same, all of the cars that we've seen and the past 4 cars that we've seen are all very, very close in performance, so it's all about which you prefer to use. Ultimately though, they are slightly off the pace of the top cars in the class. So in 8th place overall is the Infernus. This is the 6th best supercar in the entire game with a 1 minute 3.877. It's very, very quick, the Infernus, if you can use it correctly, which is being sort of never being off the throttle or the brake. You want to be always on one or the other, going into the corners and be very sort of rough with it and force it around those corners. It will give you a very good lap time if you know how to use it. So yeah, a dark horse, the Infernus, really, and it can definitely compete with the top supercars if you've got a good enough driver. So in 7th place is the Jester race car. Now the introduction of the Jester race car gave us something that can compete with the top sports car in the class, and I would say that the Jester race car is probably easier to get a quick lap time with, and it's certainly the one that I would recommend for people who are new to racing, because it will give you a very good lap time very easily, and it's the 2nd best sports car in the game. Very, very quick, and yeah, it's just very well balanced overall. But ultimately, it's not quite as good as the Elegy RH8, which has been the #1 top dog sports car in the game since the game came out, regardless of all of the DLCs that we've had. The Elegy is unbelievable in terms of the amount of traction that it has, and if you're a good enough driver, you can get the maximum out of this car. It will generally always give you the quickest lap time. It might not necessarily be the best to race with in a racing situation, but it will always be giving you the quickest lap time. So the top 5 now, and these are all supercars, and the Turismo R is in 5th place. So we've gone past the sports cars now, we're into the really heavy stuff. Now the Elegy got a 103.5, the Turismo gets a 102.7, so we've taken a big jump in lap time to get to these top 5 supercars, but they are all reasonably close together, and they can all certainly be used depending on the track that you use and depending on the driver as well. They are all relatively competitive with each other. Now in 4th place is the Entity, and is the start of basically the all-wheel drive dominance. So the Turismo R was our quickest rear-wheel drive car, so all of the cars from this point on are all-wheel drive. Now the Entity and the Turismo got a very, very similar lap time, as you can see, 102.7 for both of them. They're both very close. The Entity's strength is all about the amount of traction that it has, and on traction orientated circuits it will still even beat the top 3 supercars. But in 3rd place overall is the Zentorno. So the Zentorno was for a long time the best supercar in the game, because of its raw power. It basically combines what's good about the Entity, which is its all-wheel drive system and the traction that it has, with the good points about the Turismo, which is its sort of raw engine power. The Zentorno combines both of those together, and it can be very, very quick. A 102.0, as you can see, 0.7 of a second quicker than the Entity, but again, these top 5 supercars are all very much interchangeable, and you can really use any one that you want. Just pick your favourite, basically, the one that you prefer to drive. So yeah, the Zentorno has fallen to 3rd place overall, and in 2nd place is the Osiris. So the Osiris is the 2nd quickest supercar in the entire game, the 2nd quickest car overall in the entire game. A 102.0 is a 102.061. compared to the Zentorno's 102.069, so only 0.08 of a second between them. They have very, very different driving styles. The Osiris is, you've got to be as smooth as possible with the Osiris to really get that power down, whereas the Zentorno is pretty much the opposite. You want to be rough with it, you want to be trying to slide it around the corners a little bit, not too much. You certainly don't want to be drifting it or anything like that, but you do want to be rough with it and focus on getting that power out of the corners, whereas the Osiris is very smooth. But overall, the #1 spot goes to the T20. The T20, basically, like the Zentorno, combined the best of the Entity and the Turismo. The T20 combines the best of the Zentorno and the Osiris. Now, a 101.894 is very, very close. You know, it's not that much of a difference. The top 3 supercars in particular are very, very well balanced depending on the track. I mean, the T20 is just the best of everything, really. It feels fantastic to drive. It's got so much power coming out of the corners. It's got great traction. That spoiler on the back actually does work. It does provide extra traction and benefits braking and acceleration as well. So when that brakes, you know, that's one issue with the T20 in a racing situation. If that rear spoiler brakes, it will perform worse than it normally does. But ultimately, on most circuits, if you're a good enough driver, the T20 is going to give you the best performance out of all of the cars in the entire game. So if there's a car that you have spotted or you know about that isn't in this list, then chances are it was too slow. This list is correct as of the Ill-Gotten Gains Part 2 update. So anything beyond that, I will obviously release a video for, so you're welcome to subscribe for that. But if there's any car here that's already, you know, that's been out since then it wasn't quick enough to make this list. So check the playlist, because I've tested more than 250 vehicles now, from planes, helicopters to all the compact cars and the commercial vehicles and all sorts. I've tested almost every single vehicle that it's possible to test. So click the link in the description, you can be taken to the playlist and you can find the quickest cars for every single class, and even some planes and helicopters and all that kind of stuff as well. So that's all in there. If you're new to the channel, you can feel free to subscribe for future updates. Obviously, you know, extra DLCs that come out, I'll obviously make a video for each one of those. But I wanted to make this video just as a sort of roundup, you know, a special 50th episode of this series. I've never had a series go on this long, and it has been pretty much a year since I started this, and have been testing vehicles for an entire year now for this series. So I wanted to do something a little bit special for the 50th episode and just bring everything together from all of the DLCs that we've seen, and the top 25 has had a little bit of a change because of that. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed this little roundup. As I mentioned, click the link in the description to be taken to the playlist if you're unsure about any of the other classes or any of the other cars. It's all down there. It's all already been tested. So thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Be sure to leave a like and all of your comments down below. Thank you so much for all of the support, and I'll see you next time.